Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Israel Brief, brought to you by Lay of the Land. I'm Raleen Marks, and we bring you the top stories making headlines in Israel every Monday to Thursday. Yesterday, we brought you the heart-wrenching story about the earthquakes that have caused such devastation in Turkey and in Syria. In response to the earthquakes, Israel responded immediately and is sending aid through to Syria as through a request from Russia. Israel will be sending tents, medicine, medical supplies, and also maybe treating wounded. However, Israel launched an 150-strong IDF delegation known as Operation Olive Branch to assist Turkey. The delegation has landed and is on the ground and working. Israel's rescue delegation is headed up by the commander in charge of National Rescue Services, Colonel Golan Vach, and speaking to the media shortly before he departed, he said that it is an immense privilege to be able to help our neighbors and to help Turkey, and that they promise to do everything they can to save lives. He said that there are quite a few challenges on the ground. There are still tremors and the weather is bitterly cold, but he believes that and always has hope that they still might be able to recover and save lives. Israel's one of a number of countries that have offered aid to Turkey, but Israel's elite search and rescue is deemed by the United Nations to be the best in the world, and this delegation is the 30th in its 41-year history, something really, really extraordinary. And just on a personal note, it was a great pleasure to meet Colonel Vach at the Witzo Moor in Tel Aviv last week, where he recanted some of the stories about Israeli rescue operations, some from Haiti, some from Mexico, and of course Surfside in Miami. They really are the pride of Israel, and we wish them Godspeed and return home safely. We know you will do us immensely, immensely proud. United Hatzalah, an NGO also dedicated to saving lives and rescuing people, has announced that they are also sending a delegation to help on the ground. I'm not sure how big delegations are from other countries, but Israel's IDF delegation is 150 strong, and if we add to this the groups that will come from United Hatzalah, Zaka, and various others, it will be really, really extraordinarily big. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs have also said that they are considering sending a third flight through to Turkey, this one packed with medical supplies, and that if requested, Israel will set up a field hospital. Meanwhile, the Israeli ambassador to Turkey said that the devastation is just too terrible to even imagine, and said they don't have any word yet if there are any Israeli injuries. Meanwhile, it is feared that the head of the very small Jewish community in Antakya has been killed. However, the Torah scrolls belonging to the community were able to have been saved. Now, UNICEF have said they fear that thousands of children have been killed in Turkey and Syria as a result of the earthquakes, and the death toll at the moment is 5,000 and expected to rise. Yesterday, we brought you the story about the South African Rugby Union recanting an invitation sent to the Israeli rugby team at Tel Aviv Heat to participate in a tournament in South Africa next month. Now, yesterday, Tel Aviv Heat released a press release, and in their statement, they said they were shocked and deeply saddened to hear about this decision by Saru, saying that they weren't consulted, neither was Israel Rugby or the Israeli embassy in South Africa. If you recall, the head of the South African Rugby Union said that they had made this decision while consulting with stakeholders, but declined to say who those stakeholders were. Needless to say, they are only receiving a one-sided side of the argument, and it doesn't take a genius to guess who those stakeholders are, because BDS also happened to release a statement. Not such a big secret there, BDS. But in their press release, Tel Aviv Hear go on to say that this is not within the spirit of rugby. It's certainly not within the ethos of the sport that encourages bridge building and does great things for the morale of all who play the sport. And just a reminder that SARU as well as Israel Rugby are part of the World Rugby Federation and part of the International Olympic Committee. And I'm very interested to see whether or not SARU have broken some quite stringent laws about how you treat fellow teams and competitors. The statement went on to say that all that this does is fosters further division and it spreads the language of hate and delegitimization. And of course, we know that this is part of a greater scheme by countries like South Africa to draw into question Israel's legitimacy as the nation state of the Jewish people. Now, on the subject of Israel, and we're not without our own domestic issues, chief of which at the moment is the proposed overhaul to our judiciary. Well, cybersecurity giant Wiz have announced that if these overhauls go ahead, that they will pull their funding from the country. If they do so, they will join other bigwigs such as Papaya and Disrupt AI in pulling out of the country. The high-tech industry, as well as hundreds of economists, have warned the government about what damage this can do to Israel's economy. And also chiming in have been the bank HSBC, who have warned that the shekel could significantly devalue on the back of a judicial overhaul. And Morgan Stanley sent a letter to its investors cautioning them against investing in Israel should these overhauls go through. We really, really hope that the Justice Minister, who is being very, very stubborn and refusing to pause so that dialogue, so that all parties can be heard and that something constructive can come out of these conversations about any reforms to the Supreme Court, will listen to these warnings and put a pause or a full stop on it indeed. And our last story, because we really, really desperately need something or somewhat of a positive story. A blogger from Oman has caused quite a stir online as she landed in Israel just a couple of days ago and took pictures of the entrance to Ben Gurion Airport, which is resplendent with blue and white Israeli flags. Now, she lives in Dubai but does travel on an Omani passport, and she remarked that employees at the airport were quite stunned to see her passport. Meanwhile, it has caused a stir online, many in the Arab world, against her show of normalization with the Jewish state. And just a reminder to viewers that Oman sees any interaction with Israel, Israeli companies, Israeli individuals as illegal. Oman was one of the countries we were hoping to normalize with, but unfortunately they have gone in the completely opposite direction. And those are your stories making headlines today. Don't forget to check out our website at www.layoftheland.online. Jonathan Feldstein shares how his community is feeling after the wave of terror that happened nearly 2 weekends ago. It is also up on our Facebook page. We've also got some coverage of Operation Olive Branch. Check us out at Lottle site. Give us a like, a follow, and share our content. Our YouTube channel is at the Israel Brief. Thank you to all our new subscribers. If you haven't already subscribed, please consider hitting that red subscribe button, liking and sharing our content. And we're on Twitter at LoveTheLand5. I'm Roland Marks. This is the Israel Brief, and we'll catch up with each other tomorrow.